How's it going, buddy?
Okay.
What is this shit? Move it, boys, move it!
Hey, so you think you know me?
Yeah. What's up? Oh.
I'm getting shot the shit out.
Oh my god.
Hi, so with the upcoming release of Dying Light 2, Stay Human, I found myself wanting to play the previous game, Dying Light 1, Become Human. Stay Human's kind of an obvious title, unless you want to turn. And look, the game is obviously beloved. There's a semi-stable player base, new content updates, and, well, a sequel. That answers that then. But I figured I should delve deeper and experience it for myself. After all, playing is believing. When I first played Dying Light at release, I wasn't really impressed. This love child between Dead Island and Mirror's Edge combined some of my favorite things: survival, horror, zombies, and parkour. But there was something about the setting, characters, and gameplay that irked me. I just didn't know what at the time. Furthest I got was the introduction to the night mission, and I stopped, barely scratching the surface. Before we start, this review will be very informal, and honestly, pretty amateurish. I won't get into a real grading system, 1 to 10, A to Z, etc. I'll only try to answer one simple question. Would I replay the base game of Dying Light? Why the base game? I don't know. With 20 or so hours of gameplay on hard mode, a majority of it spent on co-op, I still have yet to 100% complete the main game. There's still a plethora of collectibles, challenges, and side missions that I've missed, probably taking at least a dozen more hours to complete. The kind of hours of my life I'd use procrastinating, or waiting for the inevitable to take me as I stare at a blank wall in my room. Or just waiting for the next Animal Crossing update. But I haven't really touched the game since finishing. I know I'm missing out on some interesting things, but overall, I didn't really feel a need to hound away at completing side quests or challenges. I said earlier that there was something irking me, and I think I figured out what set me on that course for the 6-year hiatus from the game. It's kind of average, for me at least. The crafting system from Dead Island, parkour from Mirror's Edge, and Assassin's Creed, emulating missions from Fallout and Borderlands. Techland took these ingredients and made a basic cake, edible, but you definitely need something to top it off. Some halva, perhaps? I don't believe the game distances itself enough from those other IPs. It feels as though they took those aspects at face value, but never expanded upon it. So let's just jump into it. Crafting from Dead Island makes its return, except it's portable. There's a sizable amount of mods and upgrades you can add to your weapons, making it easier to handle, more powerful, and durable. You can also craft helpful items such as firecrackers, arrows, and medkits. However, the more blueprints you get, the more annoying it is to go through your menu. You pause what you're doing, scroll around to find the thing you want to craft, and repeat over and over again. For a game about speed, it's inefficient from a gameplay perspective. I would rather have some sort of ability that lets you craft on the fly, although I do recognize that it does fit in with the survival aspect of the game. It keeps you on your toes by making sure you're ready for anything and making sure you play smarter. The world around you still moves, so make sure you're in a good spot, or at least get rid of the zombies. This unspoken rule of survival also applies to any moment that leaves you vulnerable, like lockpicking, opening crates, and turning water valves. Going back to mods, the weapons that you can mod do have a finite amount of uses though, so utilize them wisely. That's the problem. The weapons early on in the game. The degradable weapons are really not worth it against any enemies. The enemy themselves are pretty freaking strong. It might be cowardly, but I'd rather just run unless I really have to fight. Zombies aren't the enemy. Time is. Time takes us all eventually. So why use these weapons when you already have the best weapons of them all? No, it's not the piece of pipe you picked up off the ground. Or EXP Caliber, a sword that can literally launch enemies into oblivion. Here's a hint. They're connected to you already. That's right, you're Chad Legs. forged in the very fires of hell, blessed by the gods, with cartilage replaced by jelly? These weapons of mass destruction never degrade and can decimate any heathen you come across. Kick him, drop kick him, slide kick him, jump off of people, stomp them out, doesn't matter, they're already dead. Oh, look at that, points for stomping out a human life. Nice. Speaking of points, the more you get, the more your skills level up. And there are 3 main ones: agility for running, power for fighting, and survival for surviving. To my knowledge, survival points are acquired mainly by completing missions and other small things, while both agility and power naturally roid up over time the more you parkour in battle. When you die, survival is the only point to be deducted. Makes sense. Can't hold on to survival points if you can't survive. No problem for a pro gamer like me. Let me tell you, leveling up, it's pretty tedious. But by the end of the game, you should be able to get to the last tier at least. The skill tree isn't as extensive as in other games, but it's serviceable. Gain access to craft better things, get better loot, run better, run even more better, drop kick better, and etc. The usual. I would go into more detail about it, but whenever it comes to skill trees, I am an absolute caveman. Access to flashy moves will always be a stat boost. Changed my mind. Running in this game feels nice, especially when you're bouncing from rooftop to rooftop with a clear path in mind. But it's kinda just running with no obstacles. And with no fast travel, it's your only means of transportation. I'd really love to see you do something with your momentum. Stray off the path, and you'll have to take some time to climb back off the dangerous streets. Sometimes climbing can be pretty janky, so that's no bueno. I also kinda wish they added some skills for climbing, like a faster way to get to ledge. However, I do recognize by the time you get towards the end game, you'll unlock the grappling hook, so it'll
make you feel like Spider-Man?
At that point, climbing is kind of obsolete. Hot take. I wish the grappling hook would degrade. You'd have to strategically craft and use it. That way, you'd still have an incentive to climb. Next is stealth. Never used it. Anyway, combat is...
Okay.
You got your basic swings, a power move, and you have to dodge. So, pretty much Bloodborne before Bloodborne. No blocking, except with a little makeshift shield I never used again. So you have to time your attacks in order to actually deal damage to an enemy, and make sure you don't get hurt, by dodging from time to time. There's a bit of strategy between enemy types, but usually use your ultimate weapon and the deed is done. I have to mention the soundtrack here, because it just pairs so well with the prior aspects. There are tracks that are eerie techno vibes that keep you on the edge. When you're being chased, your heartbeat is already soaring, but you add these beats in, and you're sweating in real life. Not only that, but the sounds of infected screaming blend so well with the soundtrack. Sometimes, I couldn't even tell if someone was coming after me. And the moments of sereneness that filled the city have you appreciate the layout. I think the soundtrack paired with the ambiance is also what makes this game. It has its own defining feel. I think it's a job well done. Speaking of a job well done, I like how they implemented a variation of the infected into the game. All are pretty frightening in their own right. You got your infected, running infected, smelly infected, hazmat infected,
Boomer!
spitters, clubbers, the tank/charger hybrid, no relation to Left 4 Dead, glow-in-the-dark infected, and children, and the invincible chads, aka volatiles. You also have 2 human enemy types. Humans with melee weapons, and humans with guns. Yeah, humans suck. At least there's upward promotion for zombies. Besides volatiles, just aim for the head. The glowy infected and invincible volatiles only appear at night and are a pain to fight. I don't even know if you can kill a volatile, because I just ran for my life and shed my UV light on them. You know, if they wore sunscreen, we'd be doomed. Night is too spooky for me. You could sleep through it, which I mostly did. You do miss out on extra points, so just judge if you want extra points for running and fighting over a chance of dying more and losing survival points. By the way, the AI is pretty okay. They see humans, they hurt humans. They hear noise, and they go towards noise. Some are smarter than others and will dodge attacks. Human enemies get into cover sometimes, but most of the time they stand out in the open like idiots. But what good are skills, combat, and infected without a world and story to use them in? I'll do my best to recount everything, but there will probably be a few errors. The overall setting is Haran, a city-state with the same name as the Haran in real-life Turkey, but takes more after Istanbul. The game has 2 main zones. I'll get to the second one in a bit, but the first one is the slums. The slums are very impoverished, as most slums are. Some walls are covered in sheet metal, there are roofs that are prone to break if you step on it hard enough, and small apartments and houses that just line the hills. There's plenty of nature surrounding just the main slums though, and quite a few secret spots to explore. This area also reaches out past mountain ranges toward coastline areas with even smaller villages. I gotta say, this place is pretty huge, and I thought it'd be the only one I'd be exploring for the entire game. Besides my small nitpicks and this oppressive setting, I think it's a nice area to introduce the story into. To slum it up, you play as Kyle Crane, an agent for the Global Relief Effort, also known as GRE, going undercover into the slums of Faram to recover the files from Suleiman, the main physical antagonist, who is blackmailing the GRE. Well, Crane/you gets bit and picked up by a survivor group who resides in the tower. There, you'll meet a huge cast of characters and complete a bunch of missions to better people's lives. Crane will face a moral dilemma on trying to help these people, while also working for the GRE, who have no interest in helping whatsoever. Yeah, you know that moral dilemma? Crane pretty much has a soul, so he figures to help these people in what, like, the first couple main missions? One thing that disappoints me is the fact that he's bit, but it doesn't really bother him too much. Besides from one main story mission, and some slightly inconvenient moments where your vision turns green and you pass out. I mean, you sleep multiple nights in a row without taking antizin, and you're good. But it's only when the story demands it you need to take it, or else they'll turn. There's no sense of urgency. Nothing that really keeps the player on their toes. Maybe I just missed the timer from Dead Rising, but I think for a fast-paced, heart-pounding game like this, I would love to see some kind of time count implemented. What also kind of disappoints me is the lackluster cast of characters. I'll just name a few. You got Jade the Kickboxer, who you have a crush on. Not Crane, I mean you, the person watching. Don't try to deny it. You get like one mission with her and rarely chat with her till the middle. You got Brecken, parkour instructor and professional TV puncher. Yeah, you stopped talking to him halfway through. You got the love child between Werner Herzog and Danny Glover. No other trait than he's the doctor. And you got my favorite character, Jade's brother Raheem, a wisecracking youth who wants to help his community survive. His plan is to blow up a volatile infected nest, and he's gone. Lastly, I have to mention Suleiman, the apparent antagonist of this game, who wants chaos and disorder to do evil things for evil's sake. I mean, I may be dumbing down his motivations and character, but that's basically it. I mean, later on in the game, he gives us a speech about Crane being a slave to the GRE, and how he's the only one that's truly free, like some kind of Andrew Ryan. But Crane was defying them early on, so it just kind of falls flat, and Suleiman just comes off as insane. Which he is, but he's insane just to be insane. I personally like to be against an antagonist who has some relatable traits. It adds some dimension to the character and makes facing them interesting. But Suleiman is just killing his own minions left and right because they piss him off, and he's making dumb choices because he's an asshole. Not even a fun kind. I don't know if that's what the creators wanted for the character, but like the combination of parkour and zombies, it wouldn't hurt if they combined other motivations with Suleiman. So, character descriptions aside, from Crane's point of view, he really cares for these people, and forms a bond with them because of their situation they're in. He's empathetic. Me? Not so much. I didn't really care for these characters, or their situations, because we didn't spend that much time with them, save for some missions. Besides the ones you go on with Jade, you're running alone, going on multiple fetch quests and side missions that make you get or turn on something. Nice. It gets old pretty fast, and it's not just in the main cast, it's in the side characters as well. Yeah, you talk to them once or twice, but you never really speak with them again after the mission's over. Maybe I'm expecting a lot, but it would help if Crane would create a rapport with some of these people, not just in story-centric situations. I mean, you do converse with some, but it's not really in the capacity of getting to know them. You only ever really talk about the objective, and get to know them through their quirky, one-note personalities. A military nut. Aliens guy. Dutch Vanderlyn, a father who wants to get his son to Tahiti. Rapport would make me enjoy the world a little more and give Crane an even bigger personality. I know he's supposed to be a vehicle for us gamers to explore the setting in, but I didn't expect more from someone than just stating the obvious. It's wrong because it's wrong? That's fucked up, government. And I volunteer as tribute. I also feel as though the GRE would vet people better for the job instead of sending someone in with a conscience. How much is he being paid to go into a zombie-infected area? I wouldn't do it for $1 million. Probably $2. Halfway through the game, and one wacky action sequence later that I audibly laughed at because of how ridiculous it was, you make your way towards Old Town in the second half of the game, where you meet new characters, get a new hub, and for me at least, this is where the game gets the most fun, while being the most stagnant in terms of skill and level progression. It's the historical district, and this is where all the verticality in the game went. Out of the 2 levels, this is my favorite. You can run from building to building, go into buildings, and get to new areas, zipline very far distances, and a heck of a lot more. It's a great place to test out your parkour skills. Overall, this area is beautiful, and I can very much see myself going there on vacation. If it was real. And not covered in things that want to kill you. But remember how I said fighting wasn't worth it earlier? Well, by this point in the game, you become pretty much an unstoppable force of nature. You level up enough to deal out a lot of damage and acquire enough skills to easily traverse the town with no problem from being infected. And this is where you get the second strongest tier of weapons in the game. Guns. Shotguns, pistols, and rifles galore. Big beefy boy in your way? No problem. Bigger beefy boy in your way? No problem. Other people with guns? Just shoot gooder. The game gets very unbalanced. With the inclusion of the grappling hook, there is almost no challenge. I didn't feel the need to craft wacky melee weapons anymore because you had access to guns and the damage output was far greater than any flaming sword I could make. And bullets were no short supply as you pop someone in the head with a gun and take bullets from them. Besides feeling cool with it, why risk going up close and personal when you can pop them in the dome and be done with it? Yeah, it made noise that attracted runners, but regular weapons seem to do that too. I felt as though if it gets easy at this point on hard mode, I don't even want to imagine how it is on the actual easy mode or normal mode. You know what else is easy? The final battle. Okay, it's you versus Suleiman. He's got the data and wants to give it to the GRE. He's been a thorn in your side the entire game, but he's always been one step ahead of you. So you go after him to get the data, because both Suleiman and the GRE are bad. Back to the slums and up the tower you go. Now your face, mano y mano. This philosophical war with Suleiman could make God weep. All the hours in the game you've poured come into this very moment. You literally have the upper hand on him. But he's smart. Here we go. Dude, I pressed S! Yeah, it's a QTE. Underwhelming in my opinion. And what's this? Crane wants him to suffer so he lets him live, even though he killed his lackey quickly with the same spiel. Uh-oh, hope nothing happens. Uh-oh, something did happen. But yeah, you kill him, and you tell the GRE to take a hike because you got the sample for the cure stashed away. The game ends as you stare out at the horizon. Job well done. It's just so typical. There's almost no challenge in any of it. Sure, you run into the sewer and up the tower, but no zombie can really catch you in this semi-scripted event. Not even the volatiles. And if you don't have to fight anything, the path up to the tower is a breeze as well. At some points in the bigger story, I thought you were going to be betrayed by someone. I was actually kind of hoping for it. The TV puncher Brecken could have been another GRE agent. Or what if Dr. Camden continued to work for the GRE when you gave him that sample? That could have been really spicy, and added to the characters. But the story plays it so straight, and Suleiman's overall message of power is cut short by Crane's insistent
Shut the fuck up!
He was already over it a long time ago. Suleiman is just preaching to both a character and me, the player, who just wants him gone. Honestly, there's a lot of substance in this game, and they could have done so much with it. But between frustrating story beats, lack of character presence, and missions that aren't as fun to experience, it made this game less than fun to play. What I think really led me to continue on with this game is the co-op mode. I was having fun with the game, despite its problems. It was a pretty chill time. Where I would get frustrated by story and could only vent to myself, I would be able to talk about it with someone who is experiencing it with me. Kicking zombies when they're down is fine by yourself, but 4 feet is always better than 2. I think for me, the lack of camaraderie needed to be supplemented in order for it to be enjoyable. This world is big enough for more people, and even though you don't really interact with each other in game, you can in real life. No friendly AI? No problem. And besides the co-op, I don't think the overall game played single player is too bad either, besides my gripes. It had its inconsistencies with story and missions, but gameplay was always fun, especially when you're kicking people on the ground. I'm not a psychopath, I swear. There are also bugs here and there, but none that deterred me from finishing. I know I complained a bit about the combat and the second half with the guns and traversal with the grappling hook, but it was still a joy to play and use. Now, if I personally had to change anything to make the replay smoother, it would definitely be the characters and story. But I think there would be an easy fix for that. Make some sort of faction system or moral compass meter that dictates how the story ends. I think that a huge part of the game is Crane supposedly fighting for the people of Iran, getting to know them more and finding something within himself. This exploration of morality should be rewarded. You should be able to interact with these characters more. Also, the people that Crane helped should show up near the end as a force used to get to Suleiman. Besides, they're pretty much divided into factions anyway. And how cool would it be, instead of scaling a tower alone, you could see action around you between Suleiman, survivors, and zombies. That way they actually do something instead of sitting around, making the player feel as though it's only up to them, that the world that Dying Light is set in isn't as lonely, and that the characters are more than one note and too reliant on Crane. So, would I replay this game? Yes. I would play this game for myself for aspects like combat and free running alone, not to mention a cool premise that you can only really experience in this game. I may have said it was average, but come on. Parkour and zombies. That's dope. I regret not finishing it a long time ago, but I'm happy I've done it now, and I definitely would replay this entire game with a friend. It's a horror survival game, but who says you have to survive alone? Hi, so thanks for watching the vid. Sorry it was long and rambly, but I'll try to condense future opinions and reviews. I'm still trying to get the hang of this thing, so bear with me. If you have any words of wisdom to give about these reviews, let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to research and fix these problems like I'm sure Dying Light 2 learned from the first. So, have a good day.
When her head turned into a pumpkin, there on the table.
Yeah, thanks, Ghazi.
Ghazi make everybody happy.